Greetings to all true boxing fans. This morning, I watched the Naoya Inoue vs. Ramon Cardenas fight live. Subtitles by Diameterzak. It was a really awesome fight, exciting, with knockdowns from both sides. We're going to break down this fight from a technical perspective, analyze exactly what happened in the ring, and draw some simple but interesting conclusions from it. In particular, Naoya Inoue has already promised that this year he will fight the boxer from Uzbekistan, AKHMADALIEV. Next season, I will be fighting AKHMADALIEV. And we'll also say a few words about this upcoming fight as well. Look, to understand what happened in the ring between Naoya Inoue and Cardenas, we need a bit of background either way. We know very well who Naoya is. He's a knockout artist from Japan. I've analyzed him many times, including on my private channel. If I had to sum up Naoya Inoue in just one sentence, it's clear that he's a knockout artist, a fast athlete, and an extremely talented sportsman. He has incredible reflexes and insane focus. I don't know how he achieves that, whether it's natural, something he's developed, or maybe even some kind of supplements at some point that boost his concentration. Anyway, Naoya has a lot of knockouts. He's also really good for the market. Some athletes, the technical ones, they tend to trick their opponents. Like, they show one thing and then hit with something else. Basically, they deceive their opponent, right? But Naoya has quite a few knockouts just from meeting his opponent head-on. He just somehow senses the right moment, throws a right hand, bam, and for some reason, he always lands it, not his opponent. So, he's insanely talented. That's just who he is. Now, Ramon Cardenas, he's an American of Mexican descent, a total no-name. The bookmakers didn't believe in him at all. Basically, if you bet a ruble on Naoya. If Naoya wins, you only get a single kopeck added to your ruble. So basically, it was thought that the American was just doomed, right? But he's actually an interesting athlete. He's pretty technical. He's got his own tricks, his own moves. He can be flexible and defend himself, but also stay focused. Cardenas hits pretty well. He also has some unusual punches, a kind of unique punching technique. But he really lands certain punches very solidly. And with Cardenas, as we analyzed before the fight, he has a signature punch, the one he used to score a knockdown in the second round, that's his left hook. And he also has an interesting technique for throwing it. Sometimes Cardenas throws it as a counter, sometimes he throws it while moving forward. And if you've ever done boxing, you know that throwing a hook while moving forward, well, to put it mildly, that's pretty unusual, right? It's really quite unorthodox. And basically, Cardenas throws that left hook of his very unexpectedly, and very fast. And he puts his whole body weight into that punch really well. As a result, there was also another hidden pitfall in the fight. The thing is, Naoya is from Japan, and usually he fights at home. And Japanese boxers, when they're fighting at home, they show just incredible physical conditioning. I don't know how they do it. But their opponents, when they come to Japan, like Stephen Fulton, for example, and not just him, they somehow end up looking like dying fish that have been washed up on shore. I don't know, maybe it's the acclimatization or something. And that added another layer of intrigue, because Naoya was leaving his home country and heading to America, the boxing mecca, Las Vegas. That was also really interesting. So, what did we actually see in reality? First, well, the first round starts. There, the boxing was a war of jabs. I'll say right away, Naoya won it. He controlled the distance, he was more accurate. To be continued. Naoya Inoue's jab. He doesn't just throw his arm out there, he really puts his whole weight into it. For the Japanese fighter, it's a full-fledged punch, his jab is really powerful. There's also another separate pitfall there. Supposedly, Japanese fighters tape their hands more rigidly, which is not allowed in America. And, now he's going to tape his hands differently. That's a whole separate topic, way too long, and I don't want to get into it. But one way or another, no matter how he tapes his hands, he hits hard. He landed a 1-2 in the first round. And I also wanted to add something else. What stood out was that Cardenas, the American, was broader than Naoya, because for Naoya Inoue, this is far from his first weight class, it's his fourth, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe even more. So, Cardenas, I don't know what weight he started at, but naturally, he's just bigger. I mean, he's the same height, but you can see that his frame is broader. And anyway, the most interesting part starts in the second round. If in the first round Naoya fought as a distance fighter, meaning he kept his opponent guessing from long range, using his footwork, his body movement, various feints, and jabbing, and added punches from afar when he could, then in the second round, against a more powerful, broader opponent, Naoya moved in closer, to mid-range, where both fighters could reach each other without taking a step and could put maximum power into their punches. And basically, the new S. So basically, Naoya started working Cardenas over really hard, landing shots, but Cardenas has no pushover either. He doesn't control the distance that well. But when he does get close enough, his punches are on point. And he's pretty flexible. Overall, he's got solid technique. So basically, he also managed to catch Naoya a couple of times even before the knockdown. And at the end of the second round, a really interesting moment happens. Naoya goes on the attack literally in the last seconds, getting carried away with his offense. And then we see Cardenas throw his signature left hook, landing it right on Naoya's jaw, and Naoya goes down. The guys try to turn him over. It's a dry canvas, but they can't. He throws him. He wants to rush in. The Mexican wants to keep hitting, but the bell already sounds. Now, if you watch the slow motion replay, here's the most interesting question about Naoya. Did he make a mistake by taking that punch? Did he mess up somehow or not? Could he have defended himself from that left hook? Could he not have missed it? Besides, a year ago Naoya had a similar moment, also with a Mexican fighter. His name slips my mind, unfortunately. Anyway, he took a left hook back then too, and now he got caught with it again. So, could he have avoided it somehow? Look, after analyzing it in slow motion and watching it several times, yes, Naoya could have avoided taking that punch, but the issue is broader than that. It's not really about defending himself at the exact moment of that punch. That's not the point at all. It's just that boxing happens at three ranges. Close range is a separate thing. Long range is the safest, and mid-range is the most dangerous, because at mid-range you can throw the hardest punches, and you can do it without taking a step. That means there's very little time from the start of the punch to when it lands on your head. And the most important thing is that your opponent can also throw those punches at you just as suddenly, just as quickly, just as unexpectedly. That's why skilled boxers avoid staying at mid-range for too long. So, how does boxing work? You're far apart from each other. That means you can only land a punch if you step in. Accordingly, each person's reaction time increases, so you have more time to react to a punch, right? So, what do they do in this situation? You're far apart, far away, and each of you is doing your own thing, showing moves, feinting, trying to trick the other. Then you rush in, throw a combination, 3 punches, for example, and get out. Some slip away with a duck, some step back, some throw a punch while retreating, but basically, you come into mid-range, trade briefly, and then leave. That's it. Because it's dangerous to stay at mid-range for too long. But Naoya got carried away. He moved into mid-range and started throwing a flurry of punches by the ropes. Maybe he thought he was already finishing off his opponent. The opponent moved, and Naoya followed him. So Naoya ended up following him, staying at mid-range. That's a really dangerous distance, right? And so, Naoya throws his left hook. Cardenas ducks under and comes up with his own left hook. A small angle changed his position, but in any case, follow him. That's Cardenas' signature punch. In fact, it's his main punch, and he lands it. So here, Naoya's mistake isn't that he defended against the punch incorrectly, but rather, first of all, his attack was just too long. In other words, you can't have completely safe boxing. Why don't people throw 10-punch combinations, or just go for combinations like 3 plus 3, then another 3, then another 3, and so on? Yeah, because your opponent will meet you head-on and just cut you off at some point. That's why you have to keep your distance, fake your opponent out, show a jab, and then quickly get out, just like that. That's basically it. But Naoya, he got carried away with his attack. His attack dragged on too long, he lingered, stayed too long in his opponent's striking zone without winding up, without swinging, without stepping. He just threw his hand out and landed the punch, and that's the punch he took. If any of you guys are interested in diving deeper into technique, there's another hidden pitfall here. At different distances, your stance should be different. So, when you're far away, you can even drop your hands a bit more carelessly, relying on your reflexes. But the closer you are to each other, the more your stance needs to be tight, more closed, more tense, and focused. So, in theory, at this distance, Naoya should have been more composed to stay safe. By the way, the Mexican guy is awesome. I keep calling him either Mexican or American. Sorry about that, because technically, by his passport, he's American. But on TV, they introduced him as Mexican. So, I guess he's both American and Mexican, right? And with Donald coming to power, it's even harder to figure out what's what over there now. Exactly. And then, the guy, he really was impressive. He was focused, and as for Naoya, it turns out that he stayed in his usual stance, which is more relaxed and wide, keeping his distance and finishing off his opponent at mid to close range. He didn't switch to a lower stance or get more compact at body level, he just stood upright. Naoya did. And his hands are more collected. In short, he didn't make the transition. That was kind of his mistake too, you could say. Well, essentially that's how it is. That's it. But again, you know, that's if you're judging mercilessly, by the strictest standards. But actually, Naoya boxes really, really well. That's how that knockdown happened. Moving on. The third and fourth rounds were very interesting because Naoya didn't switch back to distance boxing. That is, he also spent a lot of time at mid-range, constantly trading punches with Cardenas, who is naturally the bigger guy. It's pointless to list them all. Sometimes Naoya would land a 1-2, sometimes Cardenas would. Cardenas landed again, he hit the body. Cardenas landed a right cross, and then Cardenas would take a shot in return. It was a real slugfest, just brutal. And then, in my opinion, the turning point came, starting from the 6th round. Naoya once again, well, basically, he took control. He started beating up his opponent in the 6th round. In the 7th round, it got even more intense. In the 7th round, first of all, there was an official knockdown, and the beating became total. So, what changed? I mean, look, here's what we saw. The first round was basically Naoya's, just easily. He outsmarted him at range. The second, third, and even the 4th round, maybe even part of the 5th, were closer, with both of them taking more risks. Yeah, Naoya was a bit better there. In the 5th round, he was better, and a bit more precise in the 4th, that's clear. But for some reason, in the 6th and 7th rounds, Naoya really started to win decisively. So, what changed? In my opinion, it was his footwork that changed. In those earlier rounds, Naoya was trying to really plant his feet and trade with the bigger opponent, basically exchanging punches at mid-range. But starting from the 6th round, he began to outsmart him with his movement. And how did that show itself? Take a look. When Naoya is beating up his opponent, he lands shots to the head, to the body, to the arms, to the guard, right? But Naoya's punches were really driving into Cardenas. Cardenas, in general, was taking a lot of damage from those punches. And when he tried to respond, usually he would put everything into a single punch. The Mexican, yeah, so he would answer either with a left hook or throw a right hand. But almost half the time he was just swinging at air. That too. Real quick. In other words, he couldn't reach him. What does that tell us? It shows that it was Naoya Inoue who started to control the distance. So he throws with all his might. His punches are really heavy, but when he needs to, he steps back, and when he's attacking, he steps forward. So it turns out Naoya comes in, Naoya moves out. But this Cardenas just stands there, ready to brawl. He fires back with everything he's got. Like, you can hear him go over there. He was literally swinging like a windmill. But Naoya was already gone. So Naoya started controlling the distance again. Then, well, in the 7th round, he really beat him up. And honestly, the bell pretty much saved the Mexican. Cardenas came out for the 8th round, and Naoya started attacking him. Cardenas started defending himself on the ropes. And actually, he didn't even seem all that badly hurt at that moment. Like, he seemed to be feeling pretty much okay. But the referee waved it off. He stopped the fight. That's it. By the way, before that, Cardenas' corner had also threatened to pull him out. They said, if you don't change something right now, we're just going to pull you out. So, was the referee's stoppage the right call or not? From my point of view, it was absolutely the right decision. This is no joke, guys. I mean, this is some serious damage. Even if you look at the 7th round, first of all, the fight was one-sided in the 7th round. Secondly, Cardenas, his body was already tensing up. He wanted to keep boxing, but his arms were instinctively pressed against his body, and his shoulders were covering his head. So on one hand, he wanted to fight back, but on the other, he was closing up and pulling away. And the tonnage is too big. That kind of impact on the brain, it's extremely dangerous. I mean, it's a real threat to his health. God willing, Cardenas will be okay. You know how these fights sometimes end? Later you read in the news, and what do you see? Honestly, I don't even want to say it, but unfortunately it does happen, here. That's why I completely support the stoppage. Now, let's look at the main takeaway from this fight. There are even 2 of them. We'll talk about AKHMADALIEV later. As for this fight, Naoya Inoue fights amazingly in Japan. But when he went to America, he got knocked down by a no-name. Does that mean Naoya is bad? Or what? Are they all on some kind of pharmaceutical support in Japan? Or on the contrary, is it that the opponents have a crazy time acclimating, but here there's no acclimatization needed? Is it something like that? Yeah, maybe, but we can't really check that. So it's something like that. I personally think there's at least some truth to it. That's one thing. Second point. Naoya is actually awesome. Why? Because yes, he did end up on the canvas. Yes. But remember the fight with Devin Haney. Devin Haney just fought 2 days ago. He didn't end up on the canvas, but honestly, his fight was just pathetic. By the way, I'm planning an episode about Devin Haney. I'm preparing for it, and it's going to be an unconventional episode. We're going to do a bit of a boxing investigation there. Like a mini ace, Devin Haney. But anyway, we'll talk about that separately. So, Naoya is different. Just look at how he boxed in the 1st round, keeping that Mexican fighter at bay with his jab. What do you think? Do you really think he couldn't have kept him on the jab the whole fight? Yeah, he could have done it easily. But Naoya Inoue chooses to go for the knockout, to finish his opponent, to break him down, right? And yes, you have to take risks yourself. Terence Crawford does the same thing, for example. And that's why we love him. But you know who doesn't do that? Saul Canelo Alvarez doesn't do that. I mean, he's got the technique. He's got everything. A solid chin too. But he really tries not to take unnecessary risks. Maybe he just got a taste for money. You know, realize there's no point in risking his health. But anyway, what's new and different is that he went down. But he still gives us exciting boxing. He does everything he can to get the knockout. So honestly, that's really cool. Now, about the fight with Mirajan Akhmadaliev. The fight should happen, actually. Well, basically, it's already being talked about officially. Well, not officially, but official people are already talking about it. Does Mirajan have a chance? In my OPI? Well, first of all, he definitely has some chances, because he's a boxer from Uzbekistan. The Uzbek boxing school, they have good footwork. And notice, all the top Uzbek fighters right now are southpaws. Don't you think so? It's an interesting coincidence, right? They're all southpaws. Well, all of them. All the stars in Uzbekistan right now are southpaws. Why is that? Well, it's their footwork. So they kind of have, well, you know. All right, anyway, it's actually a deep and long topic. But basically, they move really well on their feet. They use their legs, and the fact that they're southpaws. That's it. And some of them, like Mirajan Akhmadaliev, he's got a good jab. That's on one hand. On the other hand, Murajan really leaves himself open during his attacks. He really likes to throw wide hooks at a big angle. Naoya just loves to counter, to hit back when someone throws punches at him like that, you know? All of that actually works against Murajan AKHMADALIEV. So, in my opinion, I'll be analyzing this fight more, breaking it down further. We'll talk about it more than once in the private channel. But from my point of view, if the fight takes place on neutral ground, like in America for example, then Murajan AKHMADALIEV has a very real chance of winning. I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm not really a fan of Murajan AKHMADALIEV. He's good, a decent boxer. Personally, I like Naoya's boxing style more than Murajan AKHMADALIEV's. On the other hand, AKHMADALIEV kind of represents that post-Soviet boxing school. By the way, it's not really the Soviet boxing school, especially in Uzbekistan. They actually box completely differently over there. But still, in a broader sense, it's kind of our school, you know? There's footwork, and so on, and sometimes even some powerful movements. And well, in that sense, I do feel a certain sympathy for AKHMADALIEV in this particular fight. So, in short, from my point of view, if the fight takes place on neutral ground, AKHMADALIEV has a pretty good chance of winning. But if the fight happens in Japan, honestly, I think Murajan's chances are really slim. Those are my thoughts. Guys, thanks for watching this video from start to finish. I appreciate you for that. Of course, I post my predictions in a private Telegram channel and so on. You all know this already. It's a paid channel, and a monthly subscription costs about as much as a cup of coffee. So if you're interested, you can subscribe, or you don't even have to subscribe. You can just click and check out what's there, right? No one will miss out there. That's it. Wishing you all the best. See you next time. Turning off the camera.